What does art of hosting mean to you?
What the art of hosting means to me is that we have found a way to learn how to be together as human beings while the world we know is changing faster than we can understand. And the practice in the art of hosting offers us a chance to include the voices of all of those people that might have the wisdom and the answers we need to survive whatever it is that we're facing. So as the world is changing in ways we've never predicted, and it's becoming something we could never guess, then I think we need practices to stay in connection with each other and in resilience and creativity and inclusion, and not to leave people behind. And for me, the art of hosting is that way that we can sustain belonging, sustain community, and create resilience for when we collectively get challenged by what the world offers us. Not to be scared, not to run away, not to be isolated, but to be able to reach out and create and include and share our gifts and open ourselves to the gifts of others.
Will you tell something about chaotic way?
The chaotic way?
Yeah.
Well, you see, I think one of the things that the art of hosting is really good at is helping us deal with the way things are. And the way things are in this world comes down a lot of the time to this dance between chaos and order. On the one hand, we look around us and we see that things are organized, that they have a shape, that there are communities and there are buildings and there are people and forests. And then on the other hand, everything's always in a constant state of change. And so the things that we know as fixed and ordered are always shifting and changing. And we end up in a lot of suffering for ourselves when we try and hold on to the shape that things are right now. So the chaotic path is one where we get really good at walking in between chaos and order, where I can be a lover of the change that's happening in the world, where I can work with that chaos, welcome disruption in my life, and where I can bring a little bit of form so that the chaos can be productive. And if we don't bring a little bit of form or a little bit of order to the chaos that we experience, then it becomes chamos. It becomes despair. And people become apathetic and again disconnected and lonely and cynical and all of that stuff we don't want to be. But being able to hold form is an art as well, because you want to hold it without control. If you feel you can control the world, then you're going to suffer also all the time, because the world will always surprise you. The world is always going to challenge you. It's always going to challenge the way you believe it to be. So control is not always going to work. Chamos is not always going to work. So being in the space between chaos and order, and it's kind of a dance, being in the space in between, is an important skill, and it's an important practice, and it's very important for human beings who are living and working in communities to be there in that space. And so the practices of being in the chaotic space it's very important to have practices for being there, because we always get challenged there, and it's always an emotional challenge. We can be fearful or anxious or excited, even optimistic. I mean, all of these different emotional responses we have to the chaos that we see can lead us to control if we don't work with them and we don't have a practice for dealing with them. So walking the chaotic path is really the art of being able to thrive in a world that's constantly being disrupted. And it's about being able to welcome disruption and being able to welcome change and being able to work with it, to sculpt it. When you get really good at walking on the chaotic path, I think you're something like a sculptor of living materials, you know? It's not like you work in stone, but you're working with life and able to provide the structures and containers that life needs in order for it to do powerful work and not for it to leak away or not for it to be imprisoned. So you become a sculpture of living energy in a way, walking the chaotic path.
Is there something you want to add or you want to say, especially
About what?
about life? Because art of hosting is it's a life, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think the art of hosting, I think one of the things I've learned from the art of hosting over the years is that the heart wants to belong to the world. It wants to be seen and loved. It wants to have a place. But we feel really deeply a sense of belonging to our land, to our homelands, to our home peoples, to our home fires, to each other, to our tribes, whether they're our traditional tribes or our modern ones. We're built for belonging as human beings. And I think so much in this world now conspires against that belonging. Creates a separation that makes us unhealthy, makes us ill, destroys our minds, makes us violent, kind of psychopathic. And when we separate ourselves from each other, we can do tremendous damage to each other. And I think all of us have that tendency. We're all participating in systems and structures that are toxic to ourselves. You know, when I despair about it, sometimes it feels like, you know, human beings are engaged in this act of collective suicide. We just keep finding ways to try and eliminate ourselves from the planet. And so for me, I think life doesn't want that. I think life wants to be on this planet. This planet produces living things. That's what it does. And it produces living things that are that need to be together, that long for connection and long for interdependence and long for each other. And I think that's what the heart is called to do. I think that's the work of the heart, is for a human, to connect us to one another, to connect us to the very life that this planet produces and hosts, and to take as our teacher in all of it, the way this planet hosts us.
Thank you.